Hi, this is regarding activity feed notifications. So, for example, if you ping someone, or for example, if you mention at the rate the person name, right, and the other person receives the notification in the chart, like in the banner, and also sometimes it you see under the feed as well. So, how that feed appears? So, by default, it's coming based on these settings. If you click on settings, under the notifications, you have so many settings here. So for example, under the chart you have edit. So at the rate mentions if some other user mention at the rate your name, maybe in Teams channel post or in one-to-one chat or group chat anywhere, if they mention at the rate, you get banner and feed. Banner means you get notification here, and also under the feed here it will be shown. So that comes based on the settings here. So if you want to show only the feed, you don't want to get the banner, then you can change this setting and save it. So for the messages also, you want to banner also you don't want it, you can off it. And likes and reactions also, if somebody likes your message in Teams channel or one-to-one chat or group chat, then you usually get banner and feed, but you can change these settings. So that decides based on these settings. So for meetings and calls, people, other there are so many other settings for the similar type. And for Teams and channels also, you have option to change persons at the rate mentions in Teams channel, right? You can change that settings. And if somebody mention at the rate team, so you usually get everybody notified in that team. So you don't want to get the notifications under the banner, then you can change it off. But if you want to show it only under the feed, you can change it like this. So this is the notification settings to get notified for all the notifications under the feed. But uh, but some applications you even using, for example, board application or tab applications, right? You can even send this activity feed using Graph API. So that specific notifications also you can see it under here. We'll show you how that can be implemented to send the activity feed. And the next step is once the notifications appear here, right? Still, as a user, you want to control that feed. You want to see that feed, banner, those things, settings, right? You can still do that. So for that, under the notifications only, along with these default settings, your app name will also be shown here in the list, so that you can change the settings for your app. But to make that app visible here, first you need to get at least one activity feed. So if you user get at least one activity feed from maybe from the application, then that particular app name will be shown under this settings notifications. So we'll show you how that can be implemented fast. So this is the documentation reference. I will give reference in the video also, video links. So this documentation helps to send activity feed notifications to users in Microsoft Teams. You can see actually under the activity feed based on which properties you see, whatever the properties you pass in the graph API, right? So based on that, some of these values depends on. So it's just explaining that. And how to send that, right? So for that there are some prerequisites, like a manifest must be 1.7 or greater than manifest version, right? This 1.7 or greater than, that will help. Under the web application info also, we should have something like this is the app ID, and you can give this resource any URL, but it must not be empty, it should have the value. So so this is the prerequisites to make it. Under the manifest, you also need to add the activities, something like this activities information, what activity you want to send using that application. So that you need to add it to the manifest as well. So this is the uh, requirement. But for example, if you want to notify user about task created in particular Teams channel, right? So this is the graph API call. You just need to pass the team ID here. Team ID means group ID, which is GUID, right? You need to pass that value, and this is the body of that particular request you need to pass. So I will showcase how that can be done. So before doing that, I just created one app registration, uh, app ID, current ID, and then under the API permissions, I just added this Teams activity dot send permission. So I just added two permissions actually, delegated and application. Usually you would require either of one. If you want to send on behalf of some user, then you need to use delegated. But if you want to send from application perspective, there is no user intervention required. So you can send it from some automation job as well. So for that cases, you need to select the application permissions. So once it is done, I just granted admin consent because this application permissions is required admin consent. So this part is done. Let's jump to Postman. So Postman tool under the authorization, I'm just showing how to create the token as well because this also plays major role uh, when you receive the notifications. So for example, I just selected grant type as implicit, and the callback URL I just gave my application endpoint specific ngrok URL, and the authorization URL I gave the authorized URL with my tenant ID, and the client ID it is the application ID from your app registration, and then scope I just give default permissions. So I just get the token here. So I'm just clicking on get new access token. I just logged in, and so I got the token here now. So I got the token now. So this is using implicit flow. So now in the post call, I need to pass the team ID here. So let me get team ID, get team to team. So group ID is the team ID here. So I'm just changing this. So graph.microsoft.com, you can change it to v1.0. I just trying in beta. This is the team ID, and then send activity feed notifications. Just double checking. C0 send activity feed notifications. Okay, and under the body, you need to pass some values. So for example, entity URL means it's again the same uh, tenant or a team URL you want to pass, or you want to pass particular post, you can pass that. So this is the value. Under the activity type, I just mentioned approval required because let me show you the manifest. So I just followed manifest also based on these settings, but I have some other manifest. So let me just show you that. So this is the manifest version 1.11. I just because it should be greater than 1 point, greater than or equal to 1.7, right? And I gave my app ID here, uh, and then valid domains. Yeah, this is the activity activities information which we need to pass. So under the activity types, I just give the activity type as a approval required and description required approval, and this is the template text. So this is the default text, and you need to pass this value dynamically. That's why I gave as a parameterized. So you can see that here in the postman call. So active type is approval required. You can pass the preview text content, and recipient information to whom you want to send. You need to pass the GUID of the particular user. And yeah, that to get that, let me just show you. Let me just get some. User dot read permission is required. I'm just granting directory dot read all. So I get some user accounts information. So for example, I get me some other Jando account. I'm just logging in. Let me pass that value here. And then template parameters, approval task ID, right? So whatever you give in the parameterized in the manifest, so pass the same value under the name, and this value can be anything, whatever you want to pass dynamically, you can pass it. So once you have done this, then you can trigger this. But before doing that, the manifest application whichever you created, right, it must be installed for the user, then only graph API will be able to send the notifications. So let me just upload this to uh, Teams admin center and install the application. Just uploading the manifest, and let me log in with some other account, Jondo, to install app and validate it. Just log in for some time. So let me install app. So I got the communication app here. So let me just install it. Yeah. So this app is installed now. So let me trigger the notification from Postman 2. Forbidden because does not belong to the team. The person does not belong to the team, it seems. So let me add to this particular team. Because we are redirecting that activity feed to that particular team's post, and if the user is not part of the particular team, then it will fail. That's why it is showing this error. I just added to the particular team, so now I'm triggering the activity feed again. Yeah, activity feed is appeared. See, the activity is increased to 2. So if you click on it, you can actually see that here. So task created with the title, new task created, and your team channel. So this is the feed which we receive. But if you see it here, it is showing as a name with my name, because I use the authorization part, right? I use the implicit flow. Grant type is implicit. That means it is sending on behalf of the user, whoever logged in to generate the token, right? So that token was passed. That's why here you are not seeing the your app name. Instead of that, you are seeing the person name. But in business cases, usually you would require to show the app name here, right? So for that you need to do. So for example, this notification will not be treated as app notification. That's why even if you go to settings, you will not usually see the app, but the app was installed. The particular app was installed, and one activity feed was sent to the user with the same app ID. That's why you are able to see it here. Okay, so this is the app which was installed for the user, and activity feed was sent based on that particular app ID. That's why you are able to see it here. And if you go to this edit option, now you can uh, define whether you want to see the notification, whether you want to see the feed or not. You can change these settings. So let me just try to change it to client credentials flow, application permissions. So let me change the app ID, tenant ID. App ID secret is correct. Let me check. I think secret was given different. I just lost that value. So let me just create another secret. Secret is created. Yeah. So client credentials flow, access token URL with the token URL, client ID is secret, and again the scope is graph.microsoft.com default. Let me get the new token. Authentication completed. So now I got the token, and for the body perspective, I don't need to change anything. From the URL perspective also, I don't need to change anything. Let me send the activity feed again. Yeah, see the feed is appeared here, the activity feed. So now the feed is same details, but here see, instead of st super, instead of that, it shows the communication app name here now. So that was because based on the token how you generated, right? So that's decided based on this. So now it was sent as a communication app, and you get notified whatever the link you give in the feed, that it will show it under the right side. So this is the activity feed, and this is the under the notifications. You can check under this particular app, you can see it, and you can click on edit to decide that. And this required approval also, I think that was coming from manifest. So the manifest contain only single activity feed, single activity. So that's why that was showing here. But if you have multiple activities, that will be shown here in the list for the same app. So uh, so this is the way to control notifications from the app. So here, this is the documentation. This is to send notifications from the Teams perspective. If you want to link to the particular Teams channel post or anything, right? This is the link. But if you want to send notifications in chat, respect to one-to-one chat, right? So you can pass the chat ID, and based on that, you give the value here so that it appears here. So there are multiple options: user in chat, user in team, and only send notifications to user. You can do that here. So that link is here. Notify user about the event using custom topic or about an event. So these are the different APIs available. Yeah. that's it.